Welcome everybody to the second annual Valor Vision Night. We're so glad you joined us, and I think we all pictured this being a little bit different in the sense that it would be in person. But we want to thank you for inviting us into your living room or maybe your kitchen, wherever you join us from tonight. We appreciate the fact you took some time to actually make this a part of your schedule. We'll be here for about 45 minutes tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, some really important stuff and some fun stuff that's coming up in the life of our school. And we hope that if you have any questions that we answer those tonight and ultimately launch us into the balance of this year and next fall. But before we get started, I want to pray, and then we're going to go over just a few things to kick the night off. Heavenly Father, thank you for delivering your school to us. We don't know what the future holds, but we can lean on your promises that you've demonstrated throughout the many chapters of your word, and that you continue to demonstrate for us here in the here and now. Thank you for the staff, the faculty, the leadership that you have brought into our organization, your organization, for such a time as this. And Lord, there's so many distractions, there's so many opportunities to find ourselves wandering away from what our mission and our vision should be. But would you give us the eyes to see and the ears to hear your call and your will for our lives and your school, and that we'd follow that with diligence and perseverance. Bless our conversation tonight, and give us the words to speak that would communicate clearly and concisely. We ask this all in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
My name's Phil. I'm the chairman of the board here for Valor. I'm joined by a number of really talented ladies tonight that you'll all meet here in just a second. But I kind of want to set the table just a little bit. I guess this kind of makes sense as we think of ourselves as a family. We're partnering with parents on a consistent basis. So this kind of kitchen table, living room environment maybe feels just a little bit right or a little bit comfortable. But a couple things I want to talk about first is it's important to define what it is we're here for and the definition of vision in general. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and read off my prompter that vision, as defined by our friends at Webster, is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. And for anybody that's been involved with the organization for any number of years realizes we've been through a ton of planning about the future with a lot of unknowns, and God has shown up in ways we didn't anticipate. And the mission and vision for what the school was kind of the guiding principle, the North Star of how we were going to get the job done that we felt called to do. And there were countless hours spent developing that, wordsmithing that in a way where we felt like it gave us a clear focus as to where to go next. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that, our achievement levels, at least our personal judgment of achievement levels on that in just a little while. But before we get to that, I want to talk about some of the infrastructure of the school and the organization, the folks that are leading us on a daily basis. Again, I'm Phil, I'm the chairman of the board. I want to talk about the balance of board members that are involved. Scott Raymond, who has 2 daughters here at the school, he's been our treasurer for several years now. Kelly Ashman is our secretary on the board. Beverly Athens has also joined the board this year. She's a new member, along with Dave Hughes, a longtime Legacy family, now obviously in the Valor family as well. Ash Merchant, who has a child in both hybrid and full-time learning. Ash has brought a ton of leadership experience to our board. Patricia Molescio, that has actually been a great addition for us in terms of the younger ages within the school body. Mike Nelson has joined our board as well this year, and Markel Oden, a longtime Legacy board member who is now a part of the Valor board. So I want to thank each one of those individuals. They spend a ton of hours throughout the given weeks and months crafting, constructing, pouring their wisdom and experiences into the organization and leading us forward. And if you say, hey, I got a little discretionary time, I really care about this organization, I want to make an impact, I'm interested in being on the board, we want to talk to you. One of the best practices that was put into place over the last 12 months has been a board nominating committee. And that's really just for us to do a couple of different things, is to make sure that we're constantly improving the outlook for the school, the health of the organization, by bringing new people into that opportunity, and making sure that we've got good stratification across grade level, as well as now learning modes. So we don't have just one mode of education, but as we continue to bifurcate or even delineate further than that, we want to make sure that we've got good representation from all sorts of families. So you'll probably see a slide up now in front of you about the board nominating process. So this committee helps us vet and identify great opportunities within our student body, our family body of people that we think may be a good addition to the board. So the first thing, we need you to complete a board application. The second thing, those are reviewed by the committee then. It's pared down, there's interviews that are done. There's a little bit of a needs analysis, is what do you think you bring to the table and what is it that we're looking for. We want a really clear line of communication about what both parties should or could expect from the relationship. And then ultimately, those are presented by the nominating committee to the board itself. And then a quorum is reached and a majority vote to accept those new board members is identified. So we'd be really interested in talking to you. If you do have interest, that'd be a critical step in the future of our school. We hope you consider that as well. Money. We do this for spiritual reasons, yes, but at the end of the day, we are a business, and it does take money to actually make the school operate in a consistent manner. So I want to talk a little bit about our fiduciary responsibilities. The board really has two of those. That's identifying and putting a good head of school in place, making sure that we're aligning with the mission and vision and direction of the school, and ultimately the fiduciary and financial responsibility inside the organization. So since the merger of the two schools, which occurred what feels like a decade ago at this point, that we're multiplying the minutes. This was done in the spring of 2020, so not quite a full 2 years and really just about 12 to 18 months as Valor. Since the two schools have merged, the financial positioning of our organization is better than it's ever been. Joy can attest to that. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that later, but over the last 20 years or so, in the last 2 decades, there's been no time in our history where either organization separately or even now jointly is any stronger than it could have been, and that's purely a God thing. He has shown up in ways we never anticipated or expected. So if you've been praying for that, we thank you for those prayers and ask you to continue an earnest effort that those would continue in strength. We are projecting a moderate tuition increase. So if you haven't noticed, there have been some transitory inflation efforts across our economy. That means the costs to operate this organization go up as well. It is somewhat related to operational costs, but there are staff increases. You're going to hear a little bit about that in just a minute. The body has grown. Our student count is way up. Our facility has had extra strain. The half-life of things all start to deteriorate as more and more bodies are in the building. And some of that tuition increase, although nominal, is going to go towards those both staff expenses as well as operating expenses. If I step outside those and talk a little bit about the capital expenditures beyond just operation, these are the kind of things people really want to give their money to typically because it's the fun stuff. It's the stuff you see on a daily basis, and a couple of those I'm going to put into 3 different categories. The potential for modulars. We have actually capped our capacity at several grade levels and learning modes. We need more space. We are looking at putting some temporary / permanent modulars in a few different areas on the grounds, specifically focused in the arts and music spaces from an educational standpoint, and making sure that we've got ample ability to serve the body that is interested in Valor. Upgrading some playground equipment. The playground equipment we have in place is original. So over 20 years old is some of that stuff, and putting paint or an extra coat of what have you on top of it just isn't good enough anymore. So we do expect to make some capital investments in improving not only the playground, but general maintenance, as well as the facilities themselves from an athletic standpoint. Rebranding the gymnasium has been a big effort. It still says some of the stuff that's been there for a historical period of time. We want to update that, refresh that so that it does reflect our brand in some really new and exciting ways that we've pursued in the last 18 months. So transitioning just a little bit, we've talked about the idea of what a vision is. So I want to read you real quickly the vision statement for Valor Christian Academy, and it's to launch servant leaders who shape culture through a biblical worldview. Now I could go on and on about how that happened and what it looks like that's happening on a daily basis today, but I don't know exactly what goes on in the halls and walls because we've got the experts in the room tonight that are going to help educate us on what that looks like. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to transition and allow Jennifer Gasly, our head of school, to talk a little bit about what that looks like on a daily basis from a student body perspective.
That's great. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for serving us
Sure.
so well as all of our board members. We are so well supported by you, and just want to thank you for that, and all of our board members. So as Phil shared, we're just going to walk through our vision statement tonight. So to launch servant leaders that shape culture through a biblical worldview. So we're going to walk through each piece of that vision statement, and then this amazing team is going to join me and just going to share the area of expertise that God has called them to, to let you know what God has in store for our school. So the first one, to launch. What does that mean? As we've shared over and over, to launch doesn't necessarily mean you're senior out into the world. To launch means going from grade to grade. And what we are seeing is that God is continually launching students into our school. And our enrollment right now is 330 students. We started the year with 330. We've had a few students to transition out and transition in, but God continues to bring us amazing families that come into our community. So we currently sit at 330 students. What is even more incredible is that He continues to bring families to our school who say, hey, I want to be a part of what you're doing here. And so currently, if 100% of our families re-enroll in some particular grades, we will already have a waiting list based on the students who have applied and been accepted. And so we would have a waiting list in our first, second, third, fourth, and sixth grades on the full-time side. So what does that mean for you? So what that means is this evening, you're going to receive an email that walks you through the re-enrollment process. And so we're going to encourage everyone to re-enroll because we want you to continue to be a part of what we're doing here. But we really and truly can't stress enough the importance of doing that in a really timely manner because we have so many families that are looking at our school. So we have this priority re-enrollment time frame, and it's January 14th through January 28th. Just as last year, as our families are re-enrolling, we are going to ask that you pay a re-enrollment deposit. That money goes straight towards your re-enrollment for next year, and it's a $250 just enrollment deposit. Joy and her team have done a wonderful job of putting together, again, and stewarding your money so well when it comes to tuition. And so how can you help us as we continue to launch our school into the community? Well, believe it or not, you are our greatest marketing tool. And you can really help us to get the word out there about what God is doing there. And that's through just several simple things that you can do. First and foremost is just sharing our story on social media. Meredith Doster does such a great job as our Director of Communications and just sharing what's happening out there with your friends and your family across your social media avenues. Second of all, just telling people your story. When people ask, where does your child go to school, if they're sharing with you about their school experience, let them know your story. Let them know what's happening in the life of your student. Next is just our swag. Our team has done such a great job of coming up and showing our branding with our clothing and just wearing that out and representing our school. And believe it or not, our car clings, we have people almost every week calling us saying, hey, I saw Valor Christian Academy on the back of the back of a car, and we thought, well, who is this new school? And so it's incredible. If you don't have a car cling, you let us know, and we will be happy to share that with you. And so those are just some things that we just want to share with you about the excitement that's happening when it comes to enrollment and families coming into the life of our school. So now we're going to move into the next section of the vision statement. So to launch servant leaders. And we are just so excited that Kimberly Scales joined our team this past fall. As you know, she joined us as the Director of Servant Leadership. And so we're just going to invite you just to share with us what God is calling our school to do to help to continue to develop our students in the area of servant leadership.
So like Jennifer said, I'm Kimberly Scales, and it has been a privilege to step into these two schools and really help take this vision of launching servant leaders to the next level. I am, as an outsider coming in, it's been a beautiful thing to watch to see how the two schools had already had a very strong culture of serving. I personally have seen it from teachers dropping everything to filling at carpools. I also, if I have a need for someone to step in for my class, it just amazes me the willingness and the heart that everyone here has to do something and serve other people. So I've just kind of been able to step in and see that, and then also see what is being done in the lower school, the upper school, and then what can we do to strengthen this vision even more so. And there's a couple of things that we're going to do moving forward to help continue to strengthen this vision of launching servant leaders. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to take the existing Diploma of Distinction, tweak it a little bit, and add some serving components to it, some serving requirements. The other thing that we've discussed, and I personally am very, very excited about, is developing a certificate of servant leadership. That students, whatever they do outside of after high school, that they will have something very tangible that shows that they have committed to learning as much as they can about what it means to be a servant leader. The third thing that we have is our servant leadership team, which is a group of students in the upper school who have said, hey, I really want to lead this charge and be an example of that. Building that out, but then also a part of that, developing some leadership training for all the student leaders within the upper school. The last thing that we truly have kind of walked through a little bit of that, if we're going to launch servant leaders, we need to make sure that they're whole, that they're healthy, emotionally, socially. So I'm going to cheat for a minute because I want to make sure that I get this organization's information correct. But we are partnering with Pathways to Life when they're going to bring in some solid prevention education. And basically with that is that one of the reasons why we love Pathways is that they believe in partnering with parents too, which is also a core of what Valor is about. And they're going to help provide some tools that students need and can understand of what's going on inside of them, but also navigate what's going on outside of them. So that's something very, very exciting. One of the things that I know Elizabeth and I have talked a lot about is the whole thing about requiring service and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if we're a school who follows Jesus, which we obviously are, his DNA is that of a servant. And so I think a lot of times we get so focused on the world and what the world tells us that we forget that we have that same DNA. And so we want to strengthen that culture and really let that come alive within our students so that when they launch, it's not something that's really kind of fabricated, but it's something they realize is truly a part of who they are. So that's kind of what servant leadership is going to look like coming forward.
So fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kimberly. As you can see, that is why we're so excited that she joined our team and is just leading out in that area of our vision. So again, to continue on, so to launch servant leaders that shape culture. So Elizabeth LeBlanc, our amazing principal, is just going to share with you what God has called us to do in the area of shaping our culture.
Absolutely, and that is no small statement. We know that our students will either be prepared to launch to shape culture or to be shaped by culture. And in order to be culture shapers, they need to know themselves. And we're going to talk now about a few ways that we are preparing them. One thing we did this past Friday was we had an all-staff professional development. We were led by Kathleen Edelman. Kathleen Edelman kind of lit our teaching staff on fire to understand the temperament of our students and how we can call them to live that out in a beautiful way. We are excited, and you can look forward to some information where we're going to share what we learned with our families, because we recognize that for our students to know themselves, they need a team of people around them that can help call how they were wired to life. Also, if they are going to shape culture, they need to be walking out their gifts, talents, and passions. And one thing that we recognize is that we have students who have incredible athletic ability, and we are excited to announce that we have begun the search for an athletic director for the entire school. That is someone that can leverage this incredible facility to help us to generate revenue and to launch our own programs that can be a community outreach, particularly in the area of high school athletics, knowing that we now have this incredible facility, a field and gym, things we've dreamed of, and looking for someone that can pull that program together. We're also, if you know, my background is in special education. I love special education because at the heart of special ed is the student, and it's about individual growth and knowing that student. So we are excited to announce that we are going to be hiring a special ed coordinator. It is someone who will lead our accommodations program and also provide remediation in the areas of reading and math. We're looking for someone who is trained in Orton-Gillingham. And just love the fact that if we know every student, we know that some need scaffolding, but at the same time, you're going to have a set of students that need to stretch. And it's not stretch further, it's stretch deeper, and understanding critical thinking and what we call 21st century skills. The idea that they need to not run a race to nowhere, but to go deeper in the gifts that they have. So we are going to develop our REACH program. It is based around critical thinking, but we'll be able to provide information to our hybrid families at home and how they can go deeper, but also to strengthen the program we have in school for our full-time students.
So good.
Moving on, COVID has done its best to derail the goal of having service learning experiences for our grades 8th through 12th, but we are not giving up. We recognize that some of the best, most memorable learning experiences happen outside of the four walls of a classroom, so we will endeavor onward to provide those opportunities, which we're very excited about. Reading Counts is a program that has been in place on the full-time side. On the hybrid side, we have used Accelerated Reader, which is very similar. Reading Counts is coming to an end. Scholastic, that's what it is. Scholastic has decided not to continue the program, so we're going to migrate over to just using Accelerated Reader and continue the incentive program. Reading is learning, and in order to have a culture of readers, we want to have that program grow even further, which we're excited about. And then the Anchor program is something that we piloted this year, and we had a moment earlier this fall where we were doing our MAP testing in school, and what families might not know is at the exact same time we had a student in the Ukraine taking their MAP testing, because we're piloting a program where students can remotely have access to our incredible lesson plans and teachers who have thought through how to move them through towards growth and the standards that they need at that level. So we are looking forward and looking ahead to being able to be a place that can service a student or family no matter what they need. So that can be a student that needs 5 days a week, needs hybrid, or needs to be across the globe and still have a family called to Jesus-centered excellent education. The next part of our vision statement is now you have students who are launching out. They are going to be serving, they're going to be shaping culture, but we want to make sure that they're doing so with a biblical worldview. The full-time mode has had access to a curriculum called Deep Roots. I've had the chance to teach it a little bit, filling in the second grade full-time classroom when Miss Buck stepped down to chapel. I'm very impressed with the fact that it is a truth-based curriculum that understands that students learn in all different ways. And we are going to provide that same access to the curriculum to our hybrid families in lower school, and that includes the teachers in school, but also the families on the days at home. That's what my job is providing excellent tools to excellent teachers to make this come to life. That is the job of a principal, and Deep Roots is an excellent example of how we will do that. The last thing I would love to share is a small change that we're making to the high school schedule. It is a small change that yields an incredible benefit. Currently, our high schoolers have 5 one-hour class periods, and we are transitioning them to match our middle school schedule, which are 6 51-minute classes. And it doesn't seem like a huge change, but what it's going to allow us to do is in high school to officially designate Bible as a core subject. It will have its own class time where we can cement truth in our students before we launch them. But it frees up us having that elective that we can use to do some life preparation offerings that will really allow us to make sure that they have that biblical worldview in place, but also that we're still letting them explore their gifts, talents, and passions. So I'm super excited about that change.
Yeah, so great, so great. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. So again, we have just given to you the vision that God has laid before us for next year. And so now I'm going to invite Joy Hodges, our Chief Financial Officer, and Henny Jordan, who has just recently joined our team, and you have received information about her and what she'll be doing. She's joining us as the Director of Institutional Advancement, and they're just going to share with you just how we can financially come around and support the vision that God has given us for Valor.
Thank you, Jennifer. What we have here is an opportunity to shape culture, to grow these children. This is a magnificent vision that we've presented to you, but just like everything, nothing is free. So we know that with our tuition structure, tuition only covers about 90% of our operating costs. So we rely on the annual fund to fill that gap, because not everyone can give at a huge level, but we do believe everyone can give something. So what we've done to support that vision of being able to grow our school to meet our needs is we brought Henny on. She's got a lot of great background with other private schools and other nonprofit organizations, very successful fundraising. And you probably have already heard from her because she hit the ground running. So what we're going to do is we're going to just talk a little bit about the ways that you can support our school, whether it's through tax credits or whether it's through the annual fund or stock gifts we're going to talk a little bit about that because Henny is going to make the difference in achieving this vision.
Yes, thank you so much, Joy. It's a pleasure to be here. I consider it such a blessing to be at Valor Christian Academy. The first day I walked through the door was an amazing day. It was actually a Christmas cookie day. So we love our parents, and thank you for spoiling us. What a welcome. I really do want to echo what Kimberly has mentioned earlier about servant leadership. It's in the air, it's in the building, it's in the staff, the teachers. I also see that in the children as well. Just I'm amazed. And so thank you so much for the warm welcome, and thank you so much for being so sweet and already answering my phone calls and text messages and emails about Georgia Goal. As you know, Georgia Goal is an incredible opportunity that allows us to redirect our Georgia State tax dollars to Valor Christian Academy. It's an opportunity that allows individuals to participate, married couples participate, as well as pastoral organizations, whether you have an LLC, an S corporation, or a C corp. There are amazing ways to redirect some of your tax dollars that you already have to pay anyways to this institution, and that will become a financial aid opportunity for students. Did you know that your tax dollars through Georgia Goal, and some of you still participate in GASO, have actually helped 82 students just this year alone to be a student here at Valor Christian Academy who otherwise would not have the opportunity to be here and receive a quality Christian education.
That's great.
So what it also does, every dollar helps Joy to make a decision to actually spend less money on school-provided financial aid. So it actually eases up the budget, and we are able to use those dollars to increase our enrollment, as well as re-invite those students who do have an opportunity to present through an application that they do need financial aid in order to be here. As you have mentioned earlier, Joy, that tuition that we're receiving only covers 90% of what it actually costs to educate a student. So the remaining 10% needs to be covered by donations, and that is why the VCA annual fund is so important to us. There are several reasons for that. It not only provides dollars for our budget this year, but it also will be very important to us when we are ready to go and visit foundations and ask them for dollars, because their first question is going to be, what is the parent participation number at your school? It's important to them because that will tell them how much you, as our parents and our staff, believe in what we're doing here. So the question is, do you believe in what VCA is achieving in the education of your children? If you do, I'd love to prayerfully ask you to donate what you can to our annual fund this year and also every year moving forward. It's incredibly important in multiple levels for us, and this year you will be receiving a magnet, a car magnet that Jennifer talked about, that actually supports support us. Hopefully it also help another parent or maybe a friend of school or perhaps a grandparent to give to the annual fund. As well as you already know our incredible mugs, and I'm gonna be snatching one here. You already know that if you are donating at a $1,200 level to the annual fund, you'll receive an incredible Yeti, which I know you've started a couple of years ago, and they go like hotcakes, aren't they?
They're the very great motivator, surprisingly.
So, and also I probably should mention that if you have participated in Georgia Gold, you will also receive,
Or GASO.
or GASO, also receive a mug from us. So we pulled out all the incentive we could in order to help you to support us further. But for I would say that most than anything, your prayers are probably the greatest support for us. Prayer for our school, prayer for our staff, our leadership, our board, that we're making the sound decisions, and the decisions that God puts on our heart and gives us as a goal in the future.
That's great. That's great. Well, one other thing that we're going to ask Henny to step into for us is something that's called Partner with a Purpose. And this is a program where we can go out and ask businesses to come along and partner with us. And if that's something that you are interested in, it really is a partnership, but it's also a phenomenal way to let people in our community know about your business, and there are marketing avenues for you through our school, through that Partner with a Purpose program. So now we just want to transition into a time of worship and prayer. Here's what we know, is that when God calls us to do this, He gives us the ability to pray for our children and to step into their life and to say, God, show us how you want us to parent. Show us how you want us to teach. Show us how you want us to lead. But we also know that it's an amazing opportunity for us to always just stand at the feet of Jesus and to worship. So tonight, our heart had been that we would gather together and have a time of worship and walk through our school and pray. So we're going to shift, and we're going to ask you tonight to, as a family, just gather and worship and assume that posture, whatever worship looks like for you in your home. And then we're also going to ask you to have a time of prayer. And so for each of you, we sent home in carpool the last few days a card that looks like this. And what we've done is we've personalized this for your children. And we've taken Psalm 91 and we've inserted their names, and we've turned this into a prayer. And it's a beautiful way in God's Word that we can go and just take our children and put them at the feet of Jesus. And so we're going to close here now. And we are excited to hear what God does in your home through this time of worship and through this time of prayer. And I was going to ask Phil if you'll just close us now.
Yeah. Heavenly Father, help us to pause, to close out the noise around us, to stand firm in truth and step forward in faith. You've brought all these people, all these individuals from various backgrounds, experiences, settings, and environments. And you brought us all together as the unifying element. Without your Son, none of this is possible. But you see us as forgiven, as sanctified, and as redeemed. And would you help us to take hold of that? You've cast a vision, and we want to step out onto the water. And I can't thank you enough for the leadership, the experience, all the people involved that you've heard from tonight and that are carrying this out on the front lines every single day. Thank you for all the blessings you provide. Help us to rest in your promises and to realize that although the future is unknown, you're ultimately in control, and someday when it is finished, we hope to hear a job well done. Thank you for your school and for your continued provision. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'll be in touch soon.